sobreviviremos. He hecho todo lo posible por proteger a mi familia. Hoy he enterrado a mi mujer. Ahora temo por mi hijo.
When did you decide that you're going to tell the story of Tarzan with that political, historical background and that dark side of history that was the Congo?
It was always hard-boiled into the script. So when we got the script, that's one of the things that attracted us to the project. We felt it was an interesting challenge to take on. You're balancing an entertainment with a subtext or a context that is very real in our history. Now, the fact that it happened in the 1870s, in a previous century, made it tolerable to do that. And I felt there was an advantage, or we felt there was an advantage in doing that. We could make a documentary about King Leopold's time looking after the Congo, or not looking after the Congo, and a few thousand people would see it. We make a movie, which is really a movie to entertain, fundamentally, and this context is there. It now exists. Millions of people around the world see it, and out of those millions of people, maybe some of them will look up the history, maybe some will read King Leopold's Ghost.
Might be inspired to follow it through.
It seems like a contradiction. I would argue it's a valid contradiction, and it's worth.
And we didn't set out to make a polemic, but it
And it's not a polemic.
it underpins
Oh, it's not a polemic.
Underpins the
Underpins
film,
the
gives it
story.
a very firm structure, and is there to enjoy if you want, to take something from if you want to, and if you don't want to, you can just enjoy the film as a film.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays the audience wants realism when using CGI and all that technology. So what was the biggest challenge of making this film as real as possible?
Well, it's always very challenging when you're making something that has an element of extremity about it. A man fighting a gorilla is a sort of extreme moment. But we did everything we could to give it an aesthetic that felt cohesive. Is it real? No, it's not real. Does it have its own language? Yes, it does. We wanted it to be slightly romanticized in some ways. We created our jungles, and then we put on Gabon and attached Gabon to the foreground work that we did. So we had a very defined aesthetic that we wanted to convey. It's not strictly speaking real, but it sort of has a reality that's that we think is earthy and identifiable.
You've been known for being the director of Harry Potter, so what was the not challenge, but the main difference between those kind of worlds, the magical world and the jungle?
The jungle is pretty magical actually as well. So I think they're both films, the Harry Potter films and Tarzan, are big scope, big scale, a lot of visual effects. But their stories really they're about characters with heart, and all the big some spectacular things are wrapped around the characters. And I think achieving this was probably not really more difficult or not any easier than making the Harry Potter films.
So which beasts were more difficult to handle, Tarzans or Newt Scaramanders?
Well, newts are very magical and strange, but the beasts in Tarzan are beautiful in their own way because they're kind of real. These things exist in the real world. Then you get more license with the beasts that Newt deals with because no one's ever seen them because they're fantastical, whereas everyone's seen a lion or an elephant. So it's a little bit more challenging when you want to make those things real. You do your best to make them real. Newt's beasts are a bit bonkers.
Tarzán.